And welcome back once again. So now that we understand how to build major scales and minor scales, what we want to do is to make this a little bit easier on ourselves. Now, this concept people often will have trouble with writing these, but it's going to make it easier for when we are playing or writing our own music. Okay, these are called key signatures. And a key signature is basically just a shorthand that we can use to designate a key for a given piece of music. So if we were writing something in, let's say, using the E flat major scale, okay, so the E flat major scale, if you tried building it after our previous exercise, has three flats in it: B flat, E flat, and A flat. Now imagine if you're writing a piece of music and it's like 50 measures long, and every time you write the letter E, you have to write a flat. Eventually, it gets redundant. You can just say, I'm in the key of E flat, and you no longer have to write the flats, they're just implied. But to do that, we need to give a key signature, something at the beginning of the piece of music that will tell us, unless otherwise stated, we're using these as flats. Okay? So let's look at some of these key signatures. If you remember our example of C major from the last one, when we built the C major scale, there were no sharps or flats in it. So its key signature is blank. Okay, now this key signature is for G major. I would encourage you to write the scale out for all of these just to see how this is working. I'm not going to do that here, but it's a good exercise to show you how these key signatures actually relate to the keys themselves. So we have C major, G major has one sharp, and then D major has two sharps. Now, rather than me just telling you what each of these is, it's better if you understand how to see any of these and just quickly figure out what it is. That way you don't have to remember this thing with five flats is B major. You don't want to have to, well, actually, eventually you want to have it memorized like that, but you don't, at this point, if you're just learning this, you don't want to have to memorize these. You want to know the pattern. How does it work? Why is it constructed this way? And our pattern is that Father Charles goes down and ends battle. That's the pattern. Okay. So it's just a mnemonic device to tell us the ordering of sharps and flats. And different people will have different ones of these. I like this one because it works backwards and forwards. Father Charles goes down and ends battle. Battle ends and down goes Charles' father. It's a grammatical sentence both ways. Now, if I'm talking about sharps, if I'm adding sharps to the key signature, I'm going to go this way, okay, from father to battle. If I'm going for flats, I'm going to go this way, battle to father. Okay, so the order of sharps is F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp, B sharp. Notice we're having E sharp in here all of a sudden, and B sharp all of it here, in here all of a sudden. I don't know what that last phrase was. Anyway, so we are all of a sudden having E sharp and B sharp. And as I discussed when I first mentioned this, it's about context. Okay, and these keys are the context in which we'll be using those. And I don't remember if I mentioned double sharps and double flats to you, but again, those are referring to context. I'm messing up my words today all of a sudden. Anyway, so if I want to find, let's say, D major, okay, what I want to do is say, okay, well, first of all, the keys that have flats in them typically have a flat in their name. So E flat major, B flat major, A flat major, as opposed to E major, A major, B major. Okay, if it doesn't have a flat in the name, typically it's going to be using sharps. There's one exception to that, but we'll get there. Okay, so if I want to find the key signature for D major, I'm going to follow this pattern until I get to the letter in the alphabet before D. So F, C. C is the letter in the alphabet before D, so F and C are sharp in the D major key signature. So it's this one, the one with two in it. F sharp, C sharp. Okay? Now, what if I want to do E major? So what's the letter in the alphabet before E? It's D. Okay? And since it doesn't have flat in the name, I am going to assume that it's sharp. Okay? So we can say F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp. Okay? So since D is the letter in the alphabet before E, I can say that that's my last sharp, and I can say that the E major key signature is going to have 4 sharps in it. F, C, G, D. It's going to be that one. Okay? An easier way to, if you're going the other way, that is, if you just look at the last sharp, you can see that it's a half step below the name. So here we have a D sharp there at the end of the key signature. That's the last one that appears. And it's right below E, so it's easy enough to just look at that and see. Or let's look at this third one here. Okay, we have G sharp. I can just say that, okay, so if we're going sequentially left to right, G sharp is the last one, G sharp is a half step below A, this must be A major, and indeed it is. It's a little bit different when you're looking at flats though. So the flats, the second to last flat in the key signature is going to be the name, okay? And that's a little bit tricky to look at. So let's look at this third one here. We have B flat, E flat, and A flat. Notice I'm in bass clef over here. Okay, so B flat, E flat, and A flat. E flat is the second to last flat in the key signature. So this key is E flat, okay? And we can do that down here using our pattern. B flat, E flat, that's our name, so we just add one more, A flat. So what if I wanted to do the key signature for D flat major? Well, I can just come down here and say B, E, A, D. That's the one we're looking for, so we go one further. G. B flat, E flat, A flat, G flat, and D flat. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flats, which is going to be this one here. Okay, so looking at this pattern makes these a lot easier to put together. Now, the only other thing I want you to pay special attention to here is the order that they appear in the actual key signature and where they appear on the staff. Okay, so if we notice here, we have one sharp. Take a second to figure out that that is the key signature for G major, and we have one sharp. It's F sharp, okay? We can't put, notice we're in treble clef, we cannot put the F sharp down here on the first space. It has to be right there. And same thing goes with the complicated ones over here. You're not going to see too many of those right off the bat, but it follows a particular order, and it's this order. And you can't, so if we look at this one, F, C, A, G, sorry, it's squished here, so I read it in the wrong order. F, C, G, D, etc. You can't put those in any arbitrary place. They have to be in the order shown here. So I would encourage you to look at these key signatures and notice the pattern that they appear. The way I typically remember it, with the flats, you're going to end up with a row of 3 kind of going across the top and a row of 4 across the bottom. So you have 2 kind of sections to it. And with the sharps, you're going to end up with 2 on the left, 3 in the middle, and I realize this isn't the cleanest handwriting, and then 2 on the end. So notice that pattern and make sure you write that pattern correctly. Otherwise, the key signature is not going to be correct. Okay? If you have any questions, as usual, feel free to post them below or contact me however you want. I am happy to help. Toodaloo.